kubuni mfumo wa kisheria wa kudhibiti huduma za utabiri wa hali ya hewa. Mswada huu unapendekeza kuanzishwa kwa halmashauri ya huduma za utabiri wa hali ya hewa ya Kenya, ambayo itajukumiwa kudhibiti, kushirikisha na kusimamia huduma za utabiri wa hali ya hewa. Na mtazamaji, unatazama runinga ya KBC Channel 1. Tunakuletea matangazo ya moja kwa moja kutoka bunge la taifa. Leo ikiwa ni Jumanne tarehe 15 mwezi Agosti mwaka 2023. Jina langu ni Tilio Ismail Marco. Na kwa sasa msikilizaji, tunasubiri spika wa bunge la taifa au yeyote ambaye atasimamia kikao cha sasa. Na kukudokezea tu ni kwamba ratiba ya bunge la taifa leo alasiri ina shughuli chungu nzima ambazo wabunge wanatarajiwa kushughulikia, ikiwa ni pamoja na hoja ya kuidhinisha ripoti ya kamati ya kilimo na ufugaji ambayo ilichunguza mpango wa kufadhili unga wa mahindi ili kupunguza bei yake kwa mwaka wa kifedha wa 2022-2023. Vile vile kuna hoja ya kuidhinisha ripoti ya kamati ya kilimo na ufugaji iliyochunguza mpango wa kufadhili unga wa mahindi ili kupunguza bei yake kwa mwaka wa kifedha wa 2022-2023. Kisha kuna hoja ya kuidhinisha ripoti ya kamati ya akaunti za hazina maalum iliyochunguza ripoti ya mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu za serikali kuhusu taarifa za kifedha za hazina ya kufadhili biashara za wanawake, hazina ya malipo ya mapema ya kahawa, hazina ya akiba ya chakula, hazina ya usawazishaji, hazina ya kiufundi na uchukuzi, hazina ya utafiti wa kitaifa, hazina ya ustawi wa biashara za vijana, hazina ya uwezo na hazina ya mpango wa nyumba za watumishi wa umma. Hizo ni baadhi ya shughuli tu ambazo zinatarajiwa kushughulikiwa leo alasiri katika ukumbi wa bunge la taifa. Na kumbuka mtazamaji, majukumu ya bunge la kitaifa yanajumuisha utunzi wa sheria, utathmini wa utendakazi wa serikali na uwakilishi wa maeneo bunge mbalimbali. Vile vile kuna hoja kwenye ratiba ya bunge leo alasiri ya kuidhinisha ripoti ya kamati ya utekelezaji wa maazimio ya bunge iliyochunguza kanuni za marekebisho ya sheria ya ushuru wa bidhaa. Pia kuna hoja ya kuzingatia ripoti ya ujumbe wa Kenya katika mkutano wa 146 wa mabunge mbalimbali na mikutano mingine husika iliyoandaliwa huko Manama, Bahrain kuanzia tarehe 11 hadi 15 mwezi Machi mwaka huu. Vile vile kuna hoja ya kuzingatia ripoti ya ujumbe wa Kenya katika mkutano wa 4 wa pamoja wa muungano wa mabunge ya Afrika Mashariki kuhusu akiba ya chakula na lishe ulioandaliwa mjini Kigali, Rwanda kuanzia tarehe 7 hadi 9 mwezi Disemba mwaka 2022. Kisha kuna hoja ya kuidhinisha ripoti ya utangamano maeneo mbali vya pamoja vya mpakani vya eneo la kaskazini katika jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. Unatazama runinga ya KBC Channel 1. Tunakuletea matangazo ya moja kwa moja kutoka bunge la taifa, na kwa sasa namuona spika wa bunge la taifa Moses Wetangula anaingia ukumbini kuashiria kwamba ndiye atakayeongoza kikao cha sasa kuambatana na kanuni za bunge la taifa na vile vile katiba ya taifa letu la Kenya. Anaelekea kuchukua nafasi yake katika ukumbi la kwanza. Ataongoza wabunge kwa maombi. Shukran sana kwa kutazama KBC Radio Taifa na kitengo cha matangazo ya bunge, yani PBU. Na sasa mtazamaji, ni wakati wa maombi.
Kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu, tukusihi utazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tukuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe, na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Sergeant, you may continue ringing the bell.
Na mtazamaji, hakuna shughuli inayoendelea kwa sasa katika ukumbi wa bunge la taifa licha ya kupika na wabunge wameingia ukumbini tayari kwa sababu kutoshea wabunge haijatimizwa. Kumbuka bunge la taifa linahitaji wabunge 50 kati ya wabunge wote 349 ili kujaza idadi inayoweza kutekeleza shughuli katika ukumbi wa bunge la taifa. Lakini wabunge wanaendelea kuingia ukumbini mmoja baada ya mwingine, na punde si punde idadi hiyo itatimizwa. Kumbuka Spika Moses Wetangula tayari yumo ndani ya ukumbi. Naona kuna ishara kwamba idadi hiyo imetimizwa kwa sasa, na shughuli au kikao cha sasa kitaanza rasmi katika muda usiokuwa mrefu. Idadi hiyo, mtazamaji, imetimizwa ya wabunge 50 kati ya wabunge wote 349 wa bunge la 13. Endelea kutazama KBC Radio Taifa kwa ushirikiano na kitengo cha matangazo ya bunge, yani PBU.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Bashir, take your seat. The nearest available seat. Honorable members have some communication on the establishment of a joint committee to inquire into the activities and operations of Worldcoin in Kenya. Honorable members, you will recall that during the afternoon sitting of Wednesday, 2nd August 2023, the member for Manyata constituent, the Honorable Gitonga Mukunji MP, sought a statement from the leader of the majority party regarding, inter alia, the steps that the government was taking to ensure control of access to, collecting and storage of Kenyan citizens' data by foreign entities. Honorable members, given the gravity of the matter, I directed the leader of the majority party to provide a statement on the matter before the House on Thursday, 3rd August 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Consequently, the leader of the majority party presented a statement signed by the Cabinet Secretaries for Interior and National Administration and Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. In the statement, the Cabinet Secretaries averred that an entity known as Worldcoin was reported to be harvesting eyeball data from Kenyans in exchange for cryptocurrency tokens worth approximately 7,000 Kenya shillings. The aforementioned entity was not registered as a legal entity in Kenya, but preliminary investigations revealed that the entity had hired a company in Kenya known as Sense Marketing to carry out the data capture on their behalf. Members, take seats. Take the nearest seats. The nearest seats. Thank you. Honorable members, having taken into consideration the comments expressed by members of this House on the statement that was read by the leader of the majority party, I directed that the cabinet secretaries responsible for the two ministries appear before the House on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. The cabinet secretaries were to jointly appraise members of the pertinent issues that arose from their statement. As you are aware, honorable members, on the afternoon of Wednesday, 9th August 2023, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration and the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communications and the Digital Economy appeared before the House and responded to concerns by the members. However, the Cabinet Secretaries could not satisfactorily respond to all issues raised forthwith, as it became apparent that the explanations raised more supplementary questions than provided answers. In this regard, honorable members, I directed the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration and his counterpart for Information, Communication and Digital Economy to retreat and come before the plenary of this House at a later date, which is tomorrow, Wednesday, 16 August 2023, to provide more comprehensive responses to the activities and operations of Worldcoin in the country. Consequently, honorable members, I wish to inform the House that I am now in receipt of a request from the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration on this subject matter, seeking my consideration of the various approaches for inquiring into the activities and operations of Worldcoin in Kenya. In his request, the Cabinet Secretary suggests options that will avail an opportunity for the House to get clear, more coherent, accurate, and detailed responses on the matter. Honorable members, the Cabinet Secretary proposes the following three approaches. One, that the relevant Cabinet Secretaries whose mandates have a bearing on the matter, including the Attorney General, appear separately before the plenary of the House to respond to the matter. Two, he proposes that the relevant Cabinet Secretaries and heads of agencies whose mandates have a bearing on the matter appear before the relevant departmental committees or an ad hoc committee. And three, that relevant ministries, departments, and agencies whose mandates have a bearing on the matter provide information on the subject matter to the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who would then appear before the plenary of the House. Honorable members, having carefully considered the three suggested options and to avoid any further equivocation on this matter, I'm inclined to proceed with the second approach, and in this regard, I direct as follows. Honorable members, take the nearest available seats. The nearest available seats. Thank you. I repeat, honorable members, having carefully considered the three suggested options by the Interior Cabinet Secretary and to avoid any further equivocation on this matter, I'm inclined to proceed with the second approach. In this regard, I direct as follows. That the matter of the activities and operations of Worldcoin hereby stands referred to a joint committee of this House comprising 15 members, 5 members each drawn from the following three committees. 1, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security. 2, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. And 3, Departmental Committee on Tourism and Wildlife. That the nomination of members to the joint committee shall be in writing to the Speaker, done by the respective chairpersons of the three committees, taking into consideration the majority party and minority party memberships of the House. In this case, the majority party will be allocated 3 slots, while the minority party should be allocated 2 slots by each committee. that I will appoint the chairperson of the joint committee from among its members drawn from the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security. That the mandate of the joint committee is to inquire into the activities and operations of Worldcoin in Kenya under the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies whose mandates have a bearing on the matter, and that the joint committee consider and inquires into the matter and submit its report by Thursday, 28 September 2023. In view of the foregoing, honorable members, the two cabinet secretaries that were scheduled to appear tomorrow before this House will instead appear before the joint committee to provide information on the matter. Further, I wish to inform the House that I'm also in receipt of two correspondences from the Cabinet Secretary for Health and the Cabinet Secretary for Investments, Trade and Industry, requesting to be given an opportunity to respond to questions in plenary at a later date. They were scheduled to appear tomorrow. This is owing to the fact that they have prior engagements to attend to at the ongoing devolution conference, a request that I've acceded to. Therefore, I urge the leader of the majority party to schedule the two cabinet secretaries to appear before this House immediately the House resumes from the upcoming August recess. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honorable members, take the nearest seats. I have a petition to present. You don't have to sprint to the nearest seat. The nearest seat must be close to where you are. Right. Honorable members, I have a petition regarding the banning of TikTok in Kenya. Honorable members, Article 119 of the Constitution accords any person the right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority. Further, Standing Order 2252B requires the Speaker to report to the House any petition other than those presented by a member. In this regard, honorable members, I wish to report to the House that my office has received a petition from one Mr. Bob Ndolo, the Executive Officer of the Bridget Connect Consultancy, regarding the banning of TikTok in Kenya. The petitioner states that TikTok is a social media platform that allows users to create and share short videos. Honorable members, the petition decries that while it has gained popularity among the youth in Kenya, the content that is being promoting violence, explicit sexual content, hate speech, vulgar language, offensive behavior, which is a serious threat to the cultural and religious values of Kenya. The petition avers that in Kenya, the internet application is not regulated by the Communications Authority of Kenya, leading to the failure to remove or block content deemed to be inappropriate or offensive. The petitioner further avers that TikTok has been implicated in several privacy scandals over the past years. For instance, in 2019, the app was fined $5.7 million by the United States of America Federal Trade Commission for illegally collecting personal information from children under the age of 13 by collecting data such as names, email address, and locations from young users without their parents' consent, thus violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Members, the petition alleges that TikTok collects a significant amount of data on its users, including information about their device, location, and browsing history, and third-party companies without users' consent. The petitioner is concerned that if the platform is not prohibited in Kenya, the app's addictive nature would lead to a decline in academic performance and ascent in mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and sleep deprivation among the youth. Honorable members, the petitioner thus prays that this House intervenes and takes immediate action to safeguard Kenyans from the negative effects arising from the use of the platform and altogether ban TikTok in Kenya. Honorable members, having established that the matter raised in the petition is well within the authority of this House, and further that the matters raised in the petition are not pending before any court of law, constitutional or legal body, I hereby commit the petition to the Public Petitions Committee for consideration pursuant to Standing Order 208A. The committee is required to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and to the petitioner in accordance with Standing Order 2272. Honorable members, I'll give a few members to comment on this, starting with the Majority Leader. Majority Leader and the Minority Leader, I'll give you 3 minutes each. The rest of members, I'll give you 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, as you have said, the petition is well in the House. And the Mr. Ndolo who has sent that petition is well within his rights. But Honorable Speaker, TikTok, as you read that petition, Honorable Speaker, I noticed that the Honorable Njeri Maina was actually on TikTok.
Is that correct? Go on.
And Honorable Speaker, many of us, including myself, Honorable Speaker, I am on TikTok. Unashamedly. And my deputy whip here says she's also on TikTok. And there is nothing criminal, there is nothing evil being on TikTok, Honorable Speaker. I am also on Snapchat, Honorable Speaker. And all these apps are my teenage daughters who have downloaded them on my phone, shown me how to use them. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, as much as I feel what Mr. Ndolo says, there could be an element of abuse of all these apps. But Honorable Speaker, we cannot, as a House, preside over the banning, outright banning of any app. We cannot fight with technology. Honorable Speaker, what probably Ndolo should have done is to petition the House, and maybe that's what the relevant committee should do, is to look at ways how you regulate the use of these apps, how you restrict the age groups that will be able to use these apps, how the Communications Authority of Kenya and the ICT authorities will be able to regulate the content that is being uploaded for viewership, to be able to view, for age groups that are not supposed to see certain content, are not able to see. But Honorable Speaker, outright banning will also be killing careers. Honorable Speaker, I know, and I've been to some establishment in Lavington where they have established a digital village. And in fact, around the country, Honorable Speaker, it's part of government efforts to establish studios where young men and women back in our villages can have studios where they can create content for use on TikTok, on WhatsApp, on Snapchat, and all these other apps, Honorable Speaker. And there are many young Kenyans who are earning a living from this, all these apps. Honorable Speaker, the content creators that even government now is tapping onto their resources in terms of revenue generation, Honorable Speaker, is because even government now appreciates that this is now an industry where we can even raise money from. I have seen young Kenyans earning to the tune of 300,000, 400,000 shillings on account of the people who are following them on TikTok. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, we just need to regulate the content that young people or small children who are underage are able to view and how they can use these apps. But the outright banning of TikTok or indeed any other app, I think is going way beyond our call of duty, and we should encourage. And also parents should take charge. That is why as a parent, I'm on TikTok. As a parent, I'm on Snapchat. And indeed it serves very well if you are a good father. Because now my daughters are able to tell exactly who I am on Snapchat. They told me they had downloaded it so that they can tell exactly where I am at any point in time. They're able to track my movements. They're able to know when I'm coming home. Although at times, Honorable Speaker, depending on the circumstances, I have to switch off the location services. Because at times you also need to be a typical African father and appear home unannounced. Therefore, I knew my young daughters were also doing this so that they can also track to know when I'm about to get home. But I want to encourage parents like myself, Honorable Speaker, to also appraise themselves of the developments in the technological world so that we are not caught unawares and we are able to see the content that our children are being able to access. And therefore, I want to urge the committee to look more towards regulation of the use of these apps and the content that is being uploaded, who are able to access that content, Honorable Speaker, and also for government agencies to ensure that if you upload content that is not desirable for young people, you are heavily fined and probably even banned from using that app so that you don't become a serial abuser of children and underage people using these apps. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support that petition with the amendment that we do not consider the outright banning of any app. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me echo the words of the Leader of Majority. Indeed, of course, the petitioner is within his rights to petition the House on this very, very important matter. But, Mr. Speaker, I am of the view, very, very strong view, that in this digital age, we cannot as a country afford to live in isolation. We cannot operate from some island. This age knows no boundaries, it knows no borders, and therefore it will be foolhardy even to contemplate banning not only TikTok, but any other app for that matter. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are living in difficult times when unemployment levels have basically reached very high, very high, and our youth are looking forward to getting opportunities for employment, and these platforms have actually provided avenues and opportunities for our youth to get employment, especially for those who are able to create content. And as a country which is responsible, we should be looking forward to opening up these spaces for the young people to continue to eke out decent living, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, of course, I will urge the relevant committee to take its time and interrogate this matter adequately and come up with the appropriate recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Minority Leader. Jerry.
Honorable Speaker, you know, the Majority Leader adversely mentioned me that I was on TikTok where you were giving or reading the very meaningful petition. Honorable Speaker, I can confirm that I am indeed a subscriber of TikTok. I am a very popular content creator there, but I try to empower our children, Honorable Speaker. What I want to say is social media is not only an avenue that is open to people who want to abuse the platform, Honorable Speaker. It is also an avenue for many young Kenyans who are trying to eke a living, Honorable Speaker. It's also an avenue for marketing. So we cannot, as this House, say that we want to do away with TikTok, Honorable Speaker. Young people are at the center of so many challenges, Honorable Speaker. The high rising unemployment levels, and TikTok is an avenue where some young people are earning up to Kenya shillings 300,000 per month, Honorable Speaker, money that they would not make on the regular market, Honorable Speaker. We need to ensure that even if we are alive to the dangers of social media, Honorable Speaker, perhaps what we can be discussing or what we confront is to see how we can regulate abuse of content creation in social media, Honorable Speaker. A lot of these digital content creators, Honorable Speaker, are just people who are trying to put something on their table, Honorable Speaker. I therefore propose that we amend this petition to ensure that we only regulate, Honorable Speaker, the TikTok platform, but not do away with it entirely. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues in supporting that the ideal thing to do would not be to ban but to regulate. Honorable Speaker, I just want to, from an IT and audit perspective, I just want to first of all inform the House that number one, even if you ban any application in Kenya, if someone has access to VPN from any other country, they can still access that application. So Honorable Speaker,
Since Honorable Kajwang is of the old school, so you better...
Honorable Kajwang, VPN is an application that allows you to access application or material accessible in another country, within your country, if you have it on your phone. So what I'm saying is an ultimate ban would not assist anyone. Number two, Honorable Speaker, protect me from the leader of minority. Honorable Speaker, number two, what I'd like to say, and especially to parents, and I'm very encouraged that the leader of majority is on TikTok, and I will follow him so that I can oversight him on TikTok. What I want to encourage parents is that you can actually be able on Google to follow up and restrict and monitor what your children are doing on any application. Just ensure that they are registered under your number, and that anytime they access any of these sites that are not consumable to them and that you feel are of not good content, then you can be able to always get in there and actually stop them from accessing. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, I do support my colleagues in saying that we amend this petition to allow us to regulate and not ban, because banning will not be helping us. I thank you.
Rueda.
Asante Bwana Spika. Kama tunavyojua dunia inabadilika. Shetani yako juu zaidi. Hizi TikTok inatusaidia kuonesha maendeleo yetu, na Bwana Spika, mimi nimekuwa nikionyesha mabarabara na mambo mengine, lakini haija trend kama siku nilipoimba tunga mia wangu. Imetrend ile mambo hata si muhimu, ina trend zaidi na natuuza zaidi. Kwa hivyo TikTok isiende pale, ikuwe hapa. TikTok ni nzuri na ikuwe hapo, msitoe.
Yes. Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. For the old geezers like us whose technology found us, we must accept that technology is with us here. And as a country and as regulators and policy makers, the main focus should be to regulate. Honorable Speaker, in any way, the right to petition is enshrined in the Constitution. As long as it's constitutional and legal, we cannot begrudge somebody by bringing a petition. But indeed, with the new modern technology, Honorable Speaker, probably when the Public Petitions Committee seeks to review the same, they need to retweak it, look for the gentleman, listen to him, the fears, and probably also talk to the relevant members, state organs, to ensure that we regulate. Honorable Speaker, of course, some of us who are older ones, we are worried about the contents that the young people are accessing, some of the vulgar languages they are using, but we must accept and live with those kind of realities. That's their way of doing their things. So therefore, I need to urge the Public Petitions Committee to look at it soberly and clearly and ensure that we align the rules and regulations to the modern day era. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
KJ.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as has been said, this petition is properly before this House. Mr. Speaker, TikTok is a development in ICT coming out of what we are calling the fourth industrial revolution. And if there is anything we have learned from the first, second, and third revolutions, is that technological tools are basically that. They are tools. A knife can be used to do good, and a knife can be used to kill. Fire can be used to cook, and fire can be used to burn. So, Mr. Speaker, the business of this House should not be first to throw the baby with the bathwater. TikTok as an entity has committed no crime. It is how it is used, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the heart of that petition goes to the issues of morality. You can never legislate morality, Mr. Speaker. When faced with such an issue, the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, said that the government can never come to your house to switch off the TV. In the same breath, Parliament cannot go to the houses of individuals to switch off TikTok because the children are misusing TikTok. It is up to the parents the religious institutions, the schools, to bring up the issue of morality, not to over legislation on morality. Finally, Mr. Speaker, because this petition will not come to the Committee of Communication, Information and Innovation, I'd like to plead with the Committee on Petitions that when they are looking at this issue, to also look at the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Law that was passed by this House with some provisions suspended by the court. There were some very critical provisions, Mr. Speaker, that would have aided us on dealing with some of the issues that are being raised in this petition. So the Petitions Committee should also propose what it is we can do to unlock some of these provisions in the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Law of the Committee on Communication.
KJ, as the chair of that committee, you can suo moto initiate a legislative proposal. You don't have to go to the Petitions Committee. Yes, member for...
Mr. Speaker, we are very well guided, and true, the committee is doing something. I was just taking advantage of this petition that will be appearing before the Petitions Committee so that they also add a word to what our committee is doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Ndiwa. Give the honorable member the mic. Your mic is not working. Give him a working mic. Take the next. There you are.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is true that you cannot legislate moral standards, but it is also true that you should not provide environment to encourage such behaviors. Mr. Speaker, the impact of these things which are going on now, TikTok is one of them, is yet to be realized. And honorable member, I think as much as they are business-oriented, social-oriented promotions, we have to think of our children. Most children or most parents cannot regulate like we can because of the abilities you have. Very many children are vulnerable. This thing was banned in the US sometime because of the same crime. So even as much as those advantages are being thrown here and there, we have to be conscious of the effect of these platforms. My suggestion, well, we may not do total banning, but those parts that you are calling to be regulated must be properly regulated. There is an element there of time management which it denies our children. In fact, children who are not supervised very well spend more time on these applications and fail in their exams. Second, the addictive element of this has been documented in health circles and is a worrying, is a concern. So yes, we may not totally ban it, but let us put proper regulations to save our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to be very clear. One is that this is a very good idea that the Committee on Petitions can leverage on and improve. There is nothing that should not be regulated, Mr. Speaker. Even Facebook, when there were people who were misusing it, the owners of Facebook tried to develop some policy guidelines which, if you go against, your account can be disabled. We cannot continue supporting TikTok when our young people are using the same platform to post pictures when they are naked. And even when you go there, and that for you to be allowed to have an account, that you must be of a particular age. There is no control. When a child is 7 years, they pick to mean they are 35 years old. So what we are saying that we must regulate on what should be posted on that TikTok, and I think the Communication Authority and the Ministry of ICT should go beyond not just TikTok, but every other social media platform. Other countries are doing the same. You can't just be posting anything you want on the social media. It must be regulated, Honorable Speaker. This is an idea that the committee should leverage on and improve. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Women Rep Kilifi.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Nataka kushukuru aliyeleta petition hii, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nataka kuunga mkono aliyozungumza na marekebisho, kwa sababu ukiangalia TikTok ni muhimu katika kizazi cha sahihi. Kimeleta ufahamu wa watu wengi ambao hawaweza kujulikana kimataifa. Kitu ambacho kinasikitisha ni wachache, Mheshimiwa Spika, wanaoweka mambo yao ya kibinafsi katika mtandao huu. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi siko TikTok, lakini niko katika zile platform nyingine zote, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp zote. Na nataka kufahamisha Mr. Speaker, mimi ndo mbunge wa pekee Kenya hii, ndani ya bunge hili na bunge la Seneti, kuchaguliwa kuleta impact online in Kenya. Na Ijumaa hii nitakuwa napewa award. Yes. Na nafikiri wale wengine wote wanajua impact yangu imeenda viral dunia nzima na nimekuwa voted in. Kwa hivyo hizi platform zote ni muhimu, na ile content ndio muhimu zaidi ya kukufanya wewe uweze kujulikana. Kwa hivyo mimi najivunia kuwa katika hizi, japo siko TikTok. Na haya ya TikTok, nilikuwa nazungumza na mheshimiwa hapa, wachache tu wasichana ambao wanataka kujulikana kibinafsi wanaweka picha za ngono, ambao kwa hizo mimi nitakuwa tayari turekebishe. Nimuunge mkono chairman wangu wa
TJ Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I rise not to ask about VPN, but let me speak on the other side, which I don't think speakers have looked at. Mr. Speaker, the essence of public petitions. I served as the inaugural members that created this committee. I think that the members of public have not understood very well the essence of public petition. We cannot begrudge them, but we need to let them understand exactly what public petitions is all about. If you look at the Constitution and the Standing Order, we are not taking away the duties and the mandates of normal governmental agencies. We only come into play where somebody has tried all he can in his best endeavor and failed to get response from those that are charged with mandates to do these things. For example, the issue that we are speaking about right now properly belongs to the communication agency of the Republic of Kenya. They must go there. They must try to see how that commission will work. They must try to see if there is an opportunity to limit some of these things. We should not be the first port of call. If we did that, we are not able to do all that wananchi want us to do. So that is the point I wanted to pass across. But secondly, there is right to information. There is right of speech. There is right of privacy. All these things are there. So we as members of parliament must know that we work in...
Your time is up. Honorable members, I want us to stop here on this. Kagombe, can see you menacing the chair with your hand. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I want to say that this TikTok cannot be dismissed just like that. I've been seeing Opondo Kaluma trending on TikTok at some point, running away from the studio. And therefore, this app can be used properly. And when used properly, it is good to disseminate information. Mr. Speaker, we have a State Department for Economy and for Digital Economy that is supposed to expand the space in which people communicate. We cannot be seen to be fighting technology. And Mr. Speaker, this government has gone and put on Wi-Fi so that young people can find places to communicate with each other. So I would say that agencies that are supposed to regulate communication, like Communication Authority, they take up their mandate, regulate so that the apps are used properly, like Facebook is used, and Facebook has intelligence, artificial intelligence that is able to sieve the content that is communicated in there. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion and I support the petition, but with changes other than banning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chiforo Mondo, present your constituent's petition. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay a petition regarding delayed adjudication and settlement of residents of Kidomaya Miongoni Village in Vangawad, Kiwegu sublocation, Lungalunga constituency, residing in plot number 12,224. I, the undersigned, on behalf of residents of Lungalunga constituency, draw the attention of the House to the following: that the people of Kidomaya, Miongoni Village in Vangawad, Kiwegu sublocation, Lungalunga constituency, have occupied a parcel of land registered as plot number 1,224 under the dispute for more than 35 years. They are aware that the 1,506.5 acres of land of conservation restriction number CR 1,583 was granted to one Mr. Velji Parbat, now deceased, under a lease for 33 years. That upon application for extension of lease on 1st June 1980 through the Kwale County Council, Mr. Velji Parbat was granted 27 years and 6 months. That was to elapse on 1st June 2007. That currently the lease has control management of around 600 acres of the total land on the said plot, while the locals are settled in the remaining land and are worried of impending eviction. That a budget of 3 million was set aside by the county government of Kwale during the 2017-2018 financial year for the purpose of demarcation and survey of the area, considering that the lease was not renewed. That the community had expectation that the area would be adjudicated, formally recognized, settled. However, upon date of adjudication is yet to commence in the area. Mr. Speaker, that the following several attempts by the community to resolve the dispute by involving Mr. Vaj Parbat's son, the county government of Kwale, and Dr. Suazuri, the former chair of National Land Commission, were futile. That efforts to have issues resolved by the relevant government agencies, including the leadership of the county government of Kwale, have proved futile. And that the issues in respect of which this particular petition is made are not pending before any court of law or in any constitutional legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Public Petition Committee, to inquire the ownership of the land occupied by residents of Kidomaya, Miongoni Village in Vangawad, Kiwegu sublocation, Lungalunga sub-county, plot number 12,224, to investigate the cause of continued delay in carrying out adjudication and settlement of the residents of Kidomaya, Miongoni Village in Vangawad, Kiwegu sublocation, Lungalunga constituency. 3, to recommend that the government, under the 1 million acre compulsory land acquisition program, acquire the land for the local residents, and that the land be adjudicated so as to ensure that residents acquire title deeds, and make any other recommendation or action it deems fit in addressing the plight of the petitioners. And your petitioners will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chivoromondo. The petition is committed to the Public Petitions Committee. Chairman, at least you are in the House today. Those two petitions should be processed in the next 60 days. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority? Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 15th August 2023. Quarterly Economic and Budgetary Review Report for the fourth quarter for the financial year 2022-2023, the period ending 30th June 2023 from the National Treasury and Planning. 2, the budget speech of the East African Community at the 4th meeting of the first session of the 5th Assembly in Arusha, Tanzania for the year 2023-2024. 3, report of the national government guarantees for the fiscal year 2022-2023, 1st July 2022 to 30th June 2023 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. 4, second quarterly report of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission for the year covering the period 1st April 2023 to 30th June 2023 from the Office of the Attorney General. 5, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein. Bamadonye Vocational Training Center, Kandaria Vocational Training Center, Obuolo Vocational Training Center, Ebukanga Technical and Vocational College, Sirisia Technical and Vocational College, Lake Basin Development Authority, and 6, report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein. Githunguri Constituency, Embakasi East Constituency, Embakasi South Constituency, Funyula and Kuria West constituencies. Honorable Speaker, as I lay those papers, Honorable Speaker, I beg your indulgence. Honorable Speaker, you did notice at the rise of the House, at the beginning of the House this afternoon, we didn't have quorum. Honorable Speaker, understandably, because I have seen you have noted that the chair of the Petitions Committee is in the House, and I must take this opportunity to commend him. Because since the other week, he is now very consistent on the floor. Honorable Speaker, we were not lacking quorum because members were absent for no reason. You are aware, Honorable Speaker, that one of our colleagues, the Honorable Member for Njoro, Honorable Charity Kadhambi, lost her husband last week. And allow me, Honorable Speaker, to take this opportunity to convey, on behalf of the National Assembly, our heartfelt condolences to Honorable Charity Kadhambi Chepkonyi on the loss of her beloved husband, who is being laid to rest today, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, we are aware you are also supposed to be there. I was supposed to be at that funeral, but Honorable Speaker, we are ably represented by a member of the Speaker's panel, the Honorable Martha Wangare, member for Gilgil, who is representing both yourself and myself, and many of our members from across the aisle, Honorable Speaker, are in Njoro, condoling with our colleague, Honorable Charity. And therefore, on behalf of the House, on behalf of yourself, Honorable Speaker, and all the members from both the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio Coalition, we take this opportunity to convey our heartfelt condolences to Charity and her family and the greater people of Njoro constituency that are represented by Honorable Charity Kadhambi. As we do that, Honorable Speaker, we pray that the Almighty God will rest the soul of Mr. Chepkonyi in eternal peace as we continue to pray for the family and the people of Njoro who have also lost a father figure in the spouse to their member of parliament. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I had actually allowed the women rep for Kericho to make a statement, but Ms. Honorable Kemei, I think we let it rest there. We all mourn with your colleagues, Charity Kadhambi, and may the good Lord rest her spouse's soul in eternal peace. as the majority leader says, Mother Wangari is there representing me, majority leader and all of us, and we leave it there. Yes, yes, Rosa.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And I just want to add something, if you'll oblige me, Mr. Speaker, just to applaud the late Mr. Chepkwony for having given Honorable Kathambi an opportunity to actually get into the field of contesting in politics against men and giving her the support, given that our politics is still by and large quite patriarchal. So I just want to applaud him, and I join the leader of majority in wishing Charity and her family strength and comfort that can only come from the Almighty God. May his soul rest in eternal peace, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order. Yeah. Order, sorry. Before we go to the next order, honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the following schools. In the Speaker's Gallery, we have Ogande Girls from Homa Bay Town, Homa Bay. Nyambunwa, I don't know if it's a boys' school or girls' school, from Bonchari, Kisii. In the public gallery, we have Nyondia Secondary School from Naivasha, Nakuru. Sikri Junior Academy from Kaspul, Migori. Eldoret Achievers School from Kapsabet was in Gishu. From Kapseret was in Gishu, I believe. St. Catherine's Girls from Funyula, Busia. Alpha Junior from Ainamoi was in Gishu. Marimu Secondary from Kipipiri, Nyandarua. AIC Saniak Academy from Chesumei, Nandi. Sunrise Academy from Moiben was in Gishu. Bambino Academy from Kilifi South, Kilifi. Thome Academy from Kiambu. Rogena Primary from Suba, Homa Bay. St. Joseph's Primary from Kwanza, Trans Nzoia. Honorable members, I've been requested by the Honorable Kaluma to welcome the schools, and you can speak on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the honor to welcome all students from all learning institutions to the National Assembly, which is the House of Parliament. And more particularly, Honorable Speaker, let me welcome Uganda Girls. At home, we call the school the Brown Belt Movement. But Honorable Speaker and members, there is something very special about Uganda Girls. Not just being the best girls' school in my constituency and the other side, but this is the school which produced Dr. Ida Betty Odinga, the wife of the only Prime Minister surviving in Kenya who we have around. So I welcome all students to Parliament, Honorable Speaker, and I wish them well as they learn to serve Kenya in future in the various fields they will go into. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Vice Chair, Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 15th August 2023. Report of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations on its inspection visit to Kenyan embassies in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the State of Kuwait held from 5th to 12th May 2023. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, Owen Bayer.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask you that we have two members of Parliament, Honorable Pareño and Tonkei, who are addressed in a manner that suggests that they are not in Parliament. I think there's a code in Parliament, and I don't think this House has allowed that kind of dressing. Honorable Speaker, I think you need to make a ruling whether these two honorable members are properly dressed. They can enjoy regalia from their traditions, but is it parliamentary, especially in the National Assembly? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Tonkei, what are you celebrating today?
Honorable Speaker, next week, Daro County, Samburu County, Laikipia, plus Kajiado County and Ilechams from Baringo County will be celebrating their Culture Week, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to request, Honorable Speaker, that when we see us dressed this way, in fact, I'm even requesting this House and Kenya to adopt this kind of dress code as the Kenyan dress code. Mheshimiwa Speaker, I am here to celebrate the Kabasai culture. Thank you. African.
Honorable Tonkei and Agnes, I'm not satisfied that you are properly dressed, but I will give you a reprieve. I have just sent away quietly a member who came here dressed in an appropriate manner to go and dress up. We don't want to name and shame any member, but certainly if we allow that kind of direction, tomorrow Kamketi will turn up dressed in skins of colobus monkeys. Others will dress in something different. And you remember I sent away Kagombe when he faked to be Mugorino. So we will give you a reprieve now, but just know that you are inappropriately dressed, and that kind of dressing will not be allowed here. Yes, Julius Sunguli. Is it because the two ladies are Maasai?
Mr. Speaker, you and I went around the Commonwealth and drafted the standing orders.
Yes.
But I know that you are more knowledgeable because you have been practicing them more. And I would plead just for clarity, Mr. Speaker, that you make it very clear what the dressing code for women is. Because to the best of my understanding, and just look at it, look at the way Honorable Rebecca Tonge is dressed. It makes her more beautiful. And the texture of her dress is very good. You know, it's made of cotton, and it's just that she has worn more beads than before. Mr. Speaker, can you just elaborate to me
Honorable Sunguli,
what exactly is wrong with it?
Dressing is not supposed to elicit amorous considerations. You're out of order. Yes. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I give notice, you quickly dismissed that point of order by the Honorable Sunkuli. And I was going to object, Honorable Speaker, to that point of order on the basis that he has used the word more. He said that the Honorable Tongei looks more beautiful in that dress. And I was going to protest because ordinarily the Honorable Tongei is a very beautiful lady with a dress and even in another dress. Honorable Speaker,
Majority Leader.
I know there are members who expected me to say other things. I said in that dress and even in another dress. I know what Honorable Kagombe expected me to say.
You may be required to give further and better particulars, but go on.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I therefore beg to give notice to the following motion, Honorable Speaker, that aware that Article 1.1 of the Constitution provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. Further, where that Article 1(2) of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. Conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance, which include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Further conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides that Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation, represents the will of the people, and exercises its sovereignty, recognizing that there is need to embrace consultation, dialogue, and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral processes and the electoral laws, after every election cycle, there has been mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law, and respect for human rights need to be promoted, aware that there have been previous calls and attempts at building consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagement in Parliament, appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, consultation, and consensus building in seeking to promote the peace, stability, and prosperity of the country, and acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of a National Dialogue Committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, the Houses of Parliament resolve as follows. 1, that the two Houses of Parliament establish a National Dialogue Committee consisting of 10 members to represent the Kenya Kwanza Alliance Party, Kenya Kwanza, a coalition constituting the majority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, Azimio, a coalition forming the minority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. 2, that each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee. 3, that the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament and outside Parliament. 4, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Kenya Kwanza. 1, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, Delegation Leader. 2, Governor Cecily Mbarire, Deputy Delegation Leader. 3, the Honorable Senator Aaron Cheruyot. 4, the Honorable Omar Hassan Omar. And 5, the Honorable Catherine Wambilianga. 5, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Azimio. 1, His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Delegation Leader. 2, the Honorable Opiyo Wandayi, Deputy Delegation Leader. 3, the Honorable Amina Mnyazi. 4, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. And 5, the Honorable Senator Okongo Omogeni. 6, that the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya and respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. Therefore, the Houses of Parliament approve that the technical teams representing Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee, that the technical team representing Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons. 1, Dr. Mudhomi Dhiankolu. 2, Dr. Linda Musumba. 3, Dr. Duncan Ojwang and Nick Biketi. 9, that the technical team representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons. Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Professor Adam Zolo, Abubakar Zain Abubakar, and Lynn Ngugi. 10, that further the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as communication secretaries, one of whom shall be appointed by the leader of the majority party and the other appointed by the leader of the minority party. The Houses of Parliament further resolve 11, that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. 12, that the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions within 60 days, and after that submit its report to Parliament. 13, that in the execution of its mandate, the National Dialogue Committee may invite, engage with, and consider submissions from stakeholders, collect views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. 14, that the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. 15, that the speakers and clerks of both houses of Parliament shall provide secretariat and other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. Honorable Speaker, this motion is co-sponsored by myself and the Honorable Pio Wandai, MGH MP, and the Leader of Minority. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice for that motion and beg the Honorable Kamket to note point number 13.
Yes. Minority Leader is a co-sponsored motion. I just want your concurrence in 1 minute.
Actually, Honorable Speaker, I do concur with the motion whose notice has just been given by the leader of majority party. And let me just hasten to add that this is such an important moment for this country, because it reminds us that every other time this country has basically gone to the precipice, has reached the cliff, it has always pulled back. And we can't take it for granted. We must be thankful to the Almighty for always coming in to rescue us. So I think we need to seize this moment and very, very openly and sincerely look at the issues that confront our nation and try to deal with them in a manner that will not only secure our country, but also make it safer for the future generations that will be coming. Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Honorable members, that motion will be allocated time tomorrow, immediately after your engagement with the Minister for Tourism. It will be the next item on agenda. So majority and minority leadership be in the House to prosecute the motion tomorrow. Next order. Chairperson, Defense.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Development Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations on its inspection visit to Kenyan embassies in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the state of Kuwait, held from the 5th to 12th of May 2023, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 15th August 2022. I thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program for the financial year 2022-2023. Question to be put.
Order, honorable members. Order, Dr. Nyikal. Take the nearest seats. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on its inquiry into the maize flour subsidy program for the financial year 2022-23, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 7th June 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, consideration of the excise duty amendment regulations 2023. Question to be put.
Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 9, which is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the excise duty amendment regulations 2023, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 1st August 2023, and pursuant to Section 15.4 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2023, approves the excise duty amendment regulations 2023 published as legal notice number 40 of 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, consideration of reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements for various funds. Question to be put.
Order, honorable members. Order. Member for Fafi. That is not how you should be when the speaker is on his feet. I now put the question at order number 10, which is that this House adopts the report of the Special Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the Women Enterprise Fund, Coffee Cherry Advance Revolving Fund, Strategic Food Reserve Trust Fund, Equalization Fund, Mechanical and Transport Fund, National Research Fund, Youth Enterprise Development Fund, Uwezo Fund, and Civil Servants Housing Scheme Fund, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 15th June 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 11, the Meteorological Bill, National Assembly Bill number 37 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for establishment of the Kenya Meteorological Service Authority, regulation, coordination, monitoring, management, provision, and control of meteorological services and for connected purposes. Order number 12, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that we goes in the second reading of the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023. I beg to move that it now be read a second time. Honorable Speaker, let me first take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to thank the Committee on the Committee Health and the Committee Agriculture, ably represented by their chairs, the Honorable Dr. Mutunga and the Honorable Pukose. Honorable Speaker, let me also note that these two chairs are among the, unlike many other chairs that we were discussing in the House Business Committee, the Chair Health and the Chair Agriculture have been very consistent and taking their work very seriously in the House, and indeed they took a very short time to process this bill, being a bill that was being considered by their two committees. I must commend them for the short time that they took in considering and tabling a very good report. Honorable Speaker, access to safe food, as espoused in our Constitution, Article 43(1)(c), is a fundamental right. Honorable Speaker, if you read that together with Article 46(1) of the Constitution, then food safety is indeed not just a fundamental right that is guaranteed by our Constitution to all Kenyans, but a necessity, Honorable Speaker. That is why, being a food-related bill, we also involve the Committee on Health because a lot to do with food safety relates to how food is grown. That is a matter that is to be looked at by the Committee on Agriculture, the harvesting, processing, transportation, retailing, distribution, storage, how you prepare food, that food for consumption, Honorable Speaker. And the Committee on Health had invaluable input in the both committees' report as to how you will prepare food in a way that you safeguard its safety and ensure that it's food that is fit for human consumption, Honorable Speaker. And not just food that is safe for human consumption, but also feeds that are safe for animal consumption or for our livestock, Honorable Speaker. And the same livestock, Honorable Speaker, also produces food in terms of meat or milk that will then be consumed by human beings. And therefore, it's quite imperative that we ensure both the food that is being grown and processed for human consumption is safe and secure, as well as that food that is being grown and processed as animal feeds for both domestic and even non-domestic animals, Honorable Speaker, since they, in a way, also integrate with human beings in their different environments. Honorable Speaker, food safety means that all measures put in place to ensure that the food will not cause harm to the consumer or to human beings who will consume that food, or to the animals, Honorable Speaker, that consume, when it is prepared and or eaten according to its intended use. Honorable Speaker, the Food and Safety Control Coordination Bill, which, Honorable Speaker, as I've said, has already been considered by the two committees, seeks to do a number of things. One is to provide for the coordination of the public institutions for the control of food and feed safety. Honorable Speaker, you realize previously we have had too many institutions that are dealing with the question of food control and food, both food and feed safety. Honorable Speaker, we are never certain who is it that we are certain that the food or the animal feeds that our animals are consuming is secure and safe for consumption. The bill also seeks to establish the Office of the Food Safety Controller, a person now who will be charged with that responsibility. And we know we now have a one-stop shop of an office that we know the Office of the Food Safety Controller has cleared certain foods for human consumption, then Kenyans can be certain that that is food that is both secure and safe for their consumption. The bill also provides for the role of the county governments in food and feed safety. Because, Honorable Speaker, you do realize a lot of changes since the 2010 Constitution came in with certain functions, many in the agricultural sector other than policy formulation, Honorable Speaker, both in the agricultural and health sectors. A lot of the other work is designated under Schedule 4 of the Constitution to our county governments. And therefore, we seek in this bill to provide for the role that county governments will play in ensuring that how farmers produce food, how they transport their food, how processors of food process their food, and even how it is packaged, Honorable Speaker, that these food and also animal feeds are safe and secure for production. Honorable Speaker, the bill further seeks to ensure that there is supply of safe food and safe feed to consumers. And this being a critical function of both the national and county governments in fulfillment of consumer protection rights, Honorable Speaker, we have therefore ensured that within this bill there are modalities in which both the county governments and the national governments will coordinate through the Office of the Food and Feed Safety Controller and the roles that have been designated under this bill or act, whenever it's passed, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that both levels of government play their role in ensuring that consumers in this country, and indeed even outside the country, for food and feed items that will be exported out of Kenya are fit for consumption, and therefore consumer interests and consumer rights are protected. Honorable Speaker, the bill also seeks to ensure that food is safely produced, as I said, also distributed, marketed, and prepared for human consumption from the farm to consumption. Clause 3 of this bill, Honorable Speaker, outlines the objectives, I've said, which are as follows. One, to effectively coordinate the performance of the functions of the competent authorities and enhance accountability in the implementation of official control. Honorable Speaker, as members may be aware, this bill shall apply to every competent authority and every person conducting food business or feeds business. The guiding principles provided for in Clause 5 for the implementation of this bill shall be as follows. One, Honorable Speaker, is the protection of human life and health. As I said, Honorable Speaker, right from food production all the way to consumption, through processing, through its marketing, we must ensure that we protect both human life and health. Two is the protection of consumer interests in the conduct of food business and feed business. Honorable Speaker, in this country, in the past we have seen, especially feed manufacturers, Honorable Speaker, who produce animal feeds for consumption by animals that will then either be consumed as livestock, as meat, or milk, Honorable Speaker. Others, like our poultry farmers, are consuming animal feeds that have been produced, one, under very unhygienic conditions. Two, in environments where even the feed is exposed to elements that are harmful to the human body. And Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Dr. Nyikal, who has served as the Director of Public Health, will tell you there is a huge bearing in relation to the prevalence of certain non-communicable diseases and the feed that our animals feed on, and consequently human beings consume those animals, be it in poultry, be it milk, or be it beef or pork, Honorable Speaker. And there are indeed, there is scientific evidence that there are certain diseases that have been transmitted to human beings as a result of consumption of food that came from animals that have consumed feeds that were not safely produced or that were not fit for consumption by human beings, and therefore should never have been consumed by animals that will then become food to human beings. Three, Honorable Speaker, it seeks to the promotion of the use of scientific-based risk analysis. Honorable Speaker, this is very important because, as I was saying in my earlier statement there, without any scientific-based risk analysis, all manufacturers of animal feeds, for instance, Honorable Speaker, or even human food, have no basis of determining what ingredients they put in the feeds that they are producing. Honorable Speaker, you find people who are buying feed nutrients and importing them from other countries. In some instances, Honorable Speaker, we have seen instances where people import nutrients that are banned in their home countries, and they are then utilized to produce animal feeds here, and they consequently become harmful to our health. No wonder, Honorable Speaker, the prevalence of certain cancers. And again, Dr. Nyikal will bear me witness that there are indeed certain cancers. And I think the Committee on Health did also note that during their deliberations, that there are certain cancers whose prevalence, in a way, can be connected to the kind of feeds that are fed to animals, and then human beings consume products from those animals. Therefore, with the promotion and use of scientific-based risk analysis, we shall therefore be in a position where our country will be able to use scientific-based risk analysis to determine whether certain nutrients are useful to our human bodies and our animals, and whether they are safe for both animal and human consumption. Fourth, Honorable Speaker, is the promotion of food safety and feed safety, which I don't need to overemphasize. The fifth, Honorable Speaker, is the promotion of fair trade practices in the conduct of food business and feed business. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, the largest culprits, Honorable Speaker, are the producers of animal feeds, our livestock feed producers. And the Honorable Agnes Pareyo will tell you, because she comes from a livestock rearing community in Narok North and the entire of Narok County, that very innocent pastoralist farmers are made to buy feeds that are produced by business people who are engaging in very unfair trade practices, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, there are no standards as to the level of nutrients, whether it's vitamins, whether it's calcium, whether it's proteins or carbohydrates that you need to input in animal feeds. And because nobody is regulating these people, they produce feeds that are filled with carbohydrates and proteins and no vitamin or mineral contents. And gullible farmers, because of these unfair trade practices, are allowed to market, the traders are allowed to market these feeds to very gullible farmers in our villages and in our rural areas. And the farmers innocently buy the feeds, believing that the feeds will allow their animals to gain weight and produce more milk or beef products. But woe unto them, Honorable Speaker, they end up spending a lot of money without any meaningful input onto the animal health of their animals or even increasing productivity. Honorable Speaker, because this government has purposed to ensure that we increase productivity, not just of the food that we are producing, Honorable Speaker, and that is why you have seen the President overemphasize on the need to use fertilizer. And I'm glad that the government, as from last week, Honorable Speaker, has now reduced the cost of our subsidized fertilizer going to our farmers, right from the 7,000 shillings that was there before elections, Honorable Speaker, to 3,500. And last week, the President did announce that the subsidized fertilizer now will go at a price of 2,500 shillings, all in an effort to increase productivity of our food productivity in the country. The same, Honorable Speaker, goes to increasing productivity of our livestock farmers to ensure, Honorable Speaker, that our farmers can be able to feed their animals and they're able to gain weight and they can be able to sell them for meat products. Those that are producing milk, Honorable Speaker, are able to produce more milk or more liters per cow than they could produce earlier. But this can only be possible if we have a system where the food safety regulator or the food, this office of the food safety controller can assure farmers who are buying animal feeds for their dairy cattle that that feed will increase the productivity of their animals, and therefore put a little bit more coins or more money into the people's pockets, as we did promise during our campaigns, Honorable Speaker, that ours will be about what we call pesa mfukoni, or putting more money into the pockets of our farmers, both our pastoral farmers and our crop farmers. Honorable Speaker, the last is to increase efficiency in the performance of official control. As I said, Honorable Speaker, the myriad of agencies and authorities that have been regulating our feed and food safety, there hasn't been any efficiency in how our food and feed, either production to processing to consumption, Honorable Speaker, is being controlled. But now there will be greater efficiency with the enactment of this bill. And as I said, with the creation of the Office of Food Safety Controller, that is in Clause 6 of this bill, this will be established as a body corporate and a state office as defined under Article 260Q of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, the bill further provides that the county governments shall perform the following functions with respect to food safety and feed safety. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, it's important to distinguish the two roles of the two levels of government. Therefore, the bill has gone to list the following as a function of the county governments. One is to implement and enforce food safety and feed safety measures. Two is to license and exercise official control of persons who conduct food business and feed business. Because, Honorable Speaker, the committees did note during their deliberations and their scrutiny of this bill and in their engagements with stakeholders that there are many people who are producing food in their backyards, others are producing animal feeds in their farms without being licensed, and therefore nobody really knows what ingredients these people are using. Many others are also importing ingredients, as I said, some mineral nutrients that are even banned in their countries of origin, but are being shipped to our country and being incorporated into our feeds for our livestock. Three is to conduct capacity building on food safety and feed safety. Of course, as I mentioned, amongst our farmers, because they have that task, our county governments have agricultural extension officers who we will therefore be able to build and enhance capacity building on food safety and feed safety with our farmers and consumers back in our constituents and in our backyards. 4 is to conduct public awareness on matters of food safety and feed safety. The county governments will also prepare county food safety and feed safety reports. 6, they will also provide a platform for the consultation and cooperation of county governments and stakeholders in the implementation of a multi-annual control plan. 7, they will conduct audits to ascertain compliance and enforcement of food safety and feed safety measures. Honorable Speaker, this is quite important because, as I said, what has been lacking is a system where even our county governments can enforce those who are licensed to produce, whether they are producing food or feeds, animal feeds, Honorable Speaker. There lacks a system where our county government officers can be able to scrutinize whether all these food and feed producers are in compliance with the law, whether they're in compliance with the relevant health and feed safety measures. Therefore, the county governments now will be able to institute such control measures and conduct regular audits in all enterprises and institutions, Honorable Speaker, that are producing food and feeds, either for animals or for human beings. Honorable Speaker, they also coordinate food safety and feed safety activities. They will also regulate and enforce official control, and finally monitor and evaluate implementation of the multi-annual control plan. Honorable Speaker, I don't need to belabor all the other functions of the national government because these are provided for in the bill, and members will be able to scrutinize the bill. And I believe those who have been able to look at the committee report, will see the issues that were raised by stakeholders during engagement with the two committees, both on the health concerns of the animal feeds, especially that our animals are consuming, and also concerns on the handling of food right from post-harvest, Honorable Speaker. And I must commend again the Kenya Kwanza administration, because last week again His Excellency the President did announce that in anticipation of the bumper harvest, especially of maize, following the maize subsidy program, the government is now investing in acquiring or in the procurement of food and maize dryers to ensure that all the food that will be harvested this year is handled safely. Honorable Speaker, you know from the area you come from in Uasin Gishu County, crossing all over to Trans Nzoia County. And indeed, last week, Honorable Speaker, even as I traversed Nyeri County, I noticed in Narumoro, in Kieni constituency, and I'm happy Honorable Shieni Wairaina is here. I saw farmers who had spread their maize by roadsides to dry their maize, Honorable Speaker. And these are some of the issues that this bill will be speaking to ensure that farmers are not drying their maize out in the sun by the roadsides. Because, Honorable Speaker, when you do that, you expose the maize and other crops that we dry using those traditional drying methods to other elements like lead that is coming from the vehicles, vehicle exhaust systems. That lead gets embedded onto the maize, and in a way, Honorable Speaker, it ends up in being harmful to our bodies. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we must commend the government that now government is taking measures to ensure that when farmers produce maize, they will be able to dry their maize in an environment that is safe, in an environment that will be healthy, and an environment where Kenyans will be assured that the end product of that maize packet, maize flour packet that they get from their local supermarket is maize flour that has been grown or produced, transported, dried, processed in a very safe environment, Honorable Speaker, and therefore very safe for human consumption. Honorable Speaker, let me not belabor much because I had the hard task of choosing who to second this bill since it was processed by two committees. But the Honorable Pukose prevailed on me that this is more to do with health, that we are talking about health safety. Therefore, he did request that he seconds, and I want to beg that he seconds, but also beg your indulgence, Honorable Speaker, that you allow the chair Agriculture to also contribute to this bill because he is one of the very major stakeholders. With that, I beg to move. And to second.
Hold on. Honorable members, I wish to recognize the following schools who are in the speaker's gallery. Eronge Adventist School from Bochari constituency, Kisii County. Tasai School from Embakasi West constituency, Nairobi County. Garissa Academy from Garissa Township constituency, Garissa County. You're all welcome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to second this bill. I stand to second this bill, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill 2023. Madam Speaker, on the onset, I want to thank my colleague, the Chair Agriculture, the Honorable Mutunga, member for Tigania West, for having graciously co-chaired this bill together with me. I also want to thank the office of the Majority Leader that was also ably represented during our public hearings on this bill, on public participation, that we were able to do consultations with the office of the Majority Leader, being the major sponsor of this bill. Honorable Speaker, we had many interested parties in this bill, both from the Ministry from Agricultural sector and also the health. We had the PS Health representing the team. We had also members of the Public Health Union coming and making their presentations. And we had also KEPS and other AFA and other institutions who came in with their amendments and proposals. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank both the Committee of Agriculture and the Committee of Health for having actually attended all these meetings, and we had enough quorum and a lot of interest in this bill in far as creating this coordination body that will coordinate the public institutions in food and feed safety. Honorable Speaker, this office is a state office, and at one stage we were debating whether it should be domiciled in agriculture or domiciled in the Ministry of Health. But we feel that this is one of those offices that will be under the presidency, and through the executive order, the president will be able to place it properly within the presidency so that it can be able to coordinate all these other competent public institutions that are involved in food and feed safety. Honorable Speaker, one of the biggest challenges in this country is how to bring all these bodies together, how to bring the public health side together, how to bring those in the agriculture sector together to make sure that the food that we feed and the food that we take to sell in other markets in the national community meets the standards. At one stage, Madam Speaker, we were debating on whether do we adopt international standards when it comes to food or the national standards. And I think it became a very heated debate. But lastly, I think we agreed that, Kenya adopts international standards. And if we have to go to the market, then we must use the international standards that are agreeable internationally. Although other countries, their standards might also differ. But all in all, we must be able to go with the international standards, because that creates room for us to be able to make sure that if we are going to take our food out of our country, especially those involved in food business, then that food must be able to meet international standards. We are talking of avocados. We are talking of maize, which we might be able to sell within other regions, and many other foods that our country is able to produce, tea, coffee, and many other foods. We're also talking of animal feeds. And once we have this food safety and feed safety coordination controller, then we expect that this controller is able to bring all the public institutions together. It's able to bring those public institutions together to ensure that the food and the feed, both to our animals and both to ourselves, meets those required standards. The majority leader has given issues about at times you even watch, at times you are traveling on the road and you look at some of the vehicles, lorries, carrying vegetables. The vegetables are carried in a lorry and in an open place with all dust falling into it. So I think that will be things of the past. At times you walk along the road and you see also people involved in meat butcheries, carrying meat in their bags. I think these are things that should be able to be done away with. And I remember at one time, even we had motorcycles and the bicycles bringing food to other institutions. I wouldn't want to say it is Parliament, but when we were in the Food and Catering Committee, we saw that some motorcycle bringing food for members to eat in Parliament. So I think these are things that should be done away with, and with the food and feed safety controller in place, we expect that they'll be able to come up with regulations. And some of those regulations are best enforced through self-regulation, whereby you as an individual who is involved in food and feed safety must make sure that the food that you're going to give to somebody else to eat is fit for yourself to consume, not just for business, but you feel that this food is good food, safe, it is not going to be harmful to anybody else. Because when you look at our Constitution, Article 43, 1D, and Article 46, 1D, it ensures that the food that we are providing must be safe and good, and make sure that it is healthy for the person who is going to consume. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2023, be read a second time. Let me give the first opportunity to member for Garissa Township first, because he's got students here from his constituency.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the House, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all the students from all the mentioned schools, and in particular, Garissa Academy. Garissa Academy is one of the first private schools which was established in the whole of Garissa County. Interestingly, it's one of the schools that is owned by non-locals. That means non-Somalis from the region, which was established in the early 90s. It's one of the best performing schools in the county of Garissa, which is domiciled again in my constituency. I take this opportunity again to advise all those students who are here, who've joined the House, to take this opportunity to learn as they aspire to be the next leaders of this country. On that note, Madam Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to contribute on the bill which is or the motion which is on the floor of the House. As has been said, we are talking about the food and safety of our foods we eat and the feeds for our animals. Madam Speaker, as you might have noticed, this country, we are facing very serious challenges on the issue of food handling, production and handling, as has been mentioned by both committees of health and agriculture. Madam Speaker, there's a high prevalence of cancer in our country. And we might attribute, some of us have thought about it, though not scientifically proven, that it might be the processed foods that we are importing into this country, which is not well regulated. We have a situation where any type of food comes to this country without proper regulations. Food handling in this country is very wanting, and I believe with the introduction of this Office of Control of Food Safety and Feed Safety, they will be taking care of this, of these things. We have seen situations where food is grown on sewage lines. It has been reported in the past about that issue, food feeds and which has grown. We have markets, we are expecting international markets for our animals, and that means we should be able to take care of the kind of feeds we give to our animals so that they meet the international standards. If you are to export any food item out of this country to Western countries, Arab, Middle East, we face a lot of regulations, tests, procedures of how that food is handled from the growth period, from the production period to the packaging to the export. So I highly welcome the efforts of both committees of the House, that is Agriculture and Health, for the good work they have done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I also wish to recognize Kapsabet Highlands, Chesumei constituency, Nandi County, Sikri Junior Academy, Kasipul constituency, Homa Bay, Antasia School, Embakasi West constituency, Nairobi County. You're all welcome. I'll give the chairperson for agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute to this particular bill. Honourable Speaker, the Food and Feed Safety Coordination Bill comes in basically to coordinate the control of safety in feed and food. Safety is important, Honourable Speaker, because lack of it would lead to infection and infestation. Lack of proper coordination, Honourable Speaker, on which institution plays which role basically leads to duplication of functions. And duplication of functions waste not only the time and resources. Honourable Speaker, lack of clarity also is important. I mean, it's critical so that you do not waste time when you are dealing with the issues of food. This particular bill does come in to amend a number of acts. It will amend, Honourable Speaker, the Food and Drugs and Chemical Substances Acts. It will amend the Kenyan Dairy Act, the Fertilizer and Food and Animal Foodstuffs Act, the Pest Control Act, the Meat Control Act, the Biosafety Act, and the Standards Act as well. The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service Act, the Agriculture and Food Authorities Act, the Fisheries Management and Development Act, the Water Act, the Health Act. So all those acts are going to be amended in order to bring harmony to the functioning of the competent authorities that are supposed to be handling the food issues in this country. When I speak by competent authorities, I'm referring to the institutions that have the mandate to clear our food, either to come in or leave this country. When we import food from other countries, we rely on information be given by their competent authorities, which are recognized internationally. Our competent authorities in this particular respect, Honourable Speaker, the Council of Governors is hereby recognized, the Kenyan Bureau of Standards, the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards, the State Department for Crop Development, the Pest Control and Produce Board, the National Biosafety Authority, the State Department for Livestock Development, the Plant Health Inspectorate Service, the Nature of Kenya, and also the Kenya Association. These are the participants who basically brought their presentations, some of them being competent authorities. The importance of having the competent authority coordinate, in the past, some of them have been claiming to play certain roles, and therefore these roles are some kind of application. When I'm speaking, the important is because lack of safety on the feed may lead to people eating food that is dangerous. So we need to be sure that the feed that is fed to our animals is safe. A classical example is the is a fungal infestation that is called aflatoxin. Aflatoxin, toxicant, can affect the human being. If we feed our animals on mold, those animals are most likely to transmit or pass that particular fungi to the human beings. On the other hand, Honorable Speaker, some diseases called zoonotic diseases affect both human and animals. And diseases related to feeding, which could be of zoonotic nature, need to be contained in view of making sure that we have food safety. So food safety, feed safety, in the other ones, is actually food safety, because the feed fed to our animals may at the end of the day affect ourselves. So there are institutions globally that are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the safety of food is well done. And in this particular respect, we have Codex Alimentarius, to which Kenya is subscribed. Kenya, having subscribed to this Codex Alimentarius, basically ensures that Kenya's competent authorities in food matters are recognized. Honorable Speaker, the reason why counties cannot possibly do business directly without passing through the national government is because competent authorities are single in a nation. We do not have more than one competent authority in a country handling a specific issue. So we cannot have 48 competent authorities, every county having their own competent authorities, and then the national competent authority. Kenya will be expected to have only one competent authority. And that is why coordination, when it comes to intergovernmental relations, is very important when it comes to selling our products out there or importing our products from other countries. Honorable Speaker, consultations were rife on many issues concerning the food and feed safety issues. And discussions about, Honorable Speaker, clearly brought to the fore that there has been confusion. And this bill comes in to clear the confusion that lies on the handling, the issues of food safety control. That is why the establishment of the Office of the Controller is important. And the Office of the Controller will have regulations upon which the office will play to ensure that every competent authority will do their work the way it's supposed to be done. The Office of the Controller is not going to be a competent authority in itself. It will be an institution that will oversight the functions of the competent authorities, and therefore shall ensure that the issues of food and feed are taken care of. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Emuhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the chairs and the committee members of the two committees who have worked on this particular bill. That is the Committee for Agriculture and Committee for Health, to actually put in place a particular institution office that will be in charge of food safety and also control basically everything about food that we are consuming. Not only food, but also feeds for our animals, because we feed these animals in order that we feed on them, and if there's contaminated food arising from how we deal with animal feeds, then they are likely to also affect us. I want to look at this bill from the agricultural point of view first, before I just say something very small about the safety bit of it, which is also very, very necessary. That for me, the office so being created must be an office that will enhance the capacities of the farmers. The capacities of farmers in this country, both the crop producing farmers and even animal breeding farmers, to have quality accessories that they will have as inputs to their crops. Honorable Speaker, what has made us be where we are in terms of hunger in this country was the fact that we lacked such an office which could specifically control the type of inputs that were being given to our farmers. And for quite some time, both in the food bed producing areas like Kitale, North Rift and other places, people gave up on food production because they were not sure of the kind of inputs that were being given to them. Just to mention a few, like fertilizer. How many times did we hear that fertilizer had been faked and therefore the crop had failed? From fertilizer, we had even the seeds themselves, that the seeds had been faked and therefore the crop had failed. And all those inputs were being dealt with in a way that the farmers could not get value for their money. And I want to believe that this bill and this office being created, this network should actually arraign the quality of feeds, the quality of inputs that we are giving to our farmers. Worse was it also for those who are beef producers and milk producers, because how many times do we see those farmers get feeds? And so long as the feeds of a particular color, then is a feed. But yet it could just be nothing with any nutrients being given to the animals, and therefore the yields are small. So this has affected both the dairy farmers, the beef farmers, and has further affected the crop producing farmers. We must invest, and seriously invest, like the Kenya Kwanza government has done, in food production. And if that must happen, then we must also have good quality feeds for animals and also good quality inputs for crop farmers, which we are sure that the farmers will get their crop after they have invested in farming. And this is very good. How many times, and even during the last parliament, you yourself, Honorable Speaker, you had a bill on very many fake, what were they called? Were they called pesticides and all those things? This is where it's boiling up to, Honorable Speaker, that the farmers are not having the right quality of inputs that will actually safeguard food production. Therefore, from the agricultural point of view, this is a bill that I'm fully supporting so that we may enhance our food production. Now I'm happy fertilizer is reaching the last mile. Like in my constituency, Muhaya, for the first time, the fertilizer has reached the very last end of Bunyore land in Mulhoro in Luanda. Ordinarily, we would have to go and buy that fertilizer from far away in Chavakali. Now, this bill should actually enforce that the quality of that fertilizer is real, and the seed that shall be coming must be real, and everything about inputs must be real so that we increase the food production. I cannot belabor to speak about the safety of the foods that we are doing in terms of from the time we are planting, the processing of the food, the transportation, and therefore this may also be important in enhancing certain sectors within the agriculture, so that those farmers who are doing vegetables, who are doing floriculture and small-scale production of vegetables must have means of transportation, either them being helped to form associations, cooperatives, and other such like organizations that will enable them to actually make sure that the safety of the foods they are transporting and even processing is accurate. So for me, I want to look at it as an office that will enhance and not simply a policing office that will arrest farmers that, yes, you are processing this wrongly, but let them be capacitated to have the correct inputs and then later on monitored on how they are doing the transportation for safety of our foods. With those few remarks, I want to support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Murugara.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to rise and support this particular bill.
Be next.
Particular bill on the food and feed safety control coordination. As we speak on the bill, we would pause and ask how safe is the food that Kenyans are consuming today. This is because the food control mechanisms in the country are not sufficient. We know very well that the only other law that attempts to control food safety in the country is the Food Control and Drug Substances Act, and it is not sufficient, and this is the reason why it now becomes important that a law is put into place to control the safety of food and also the feeds that are fed on our animals. We cannot afford to risk the lives of the people of Kenya by giving to them food that is not fit for human consumption. Thus, we must have some coordinated way of ensuring what Kenyans are fed on is actually good for them. We know very well that we do have problems with the fertilizers we use, the pesticides that are applied, and sometimes we are mocked in the country as to what you really place on the table, whether you know where it has come from. We are told that the best of the vegetables that we enjoy every evening and tubers that are grown all over come from places watered with sewage water, because this is what they do very well. We have no control over this, and we do not know whether we can establish it, but that may be true to some extent. We are also told that some of the animals, the meats that we enjoy, from whether it's beef, it's mutton, it's chicken, may be actually induced with some substances that make the animals to grow faster than they should, as a result of which you compromise your own health. It's vitally important that we know exactly what we are eating. And that's why today we must have this law that regulates the manufacturing, packaging, and distribution of food. Because in most times, the manufacturing itself, you'll find food being sold along the streets of Nairobi, Mombasa, the other towns all over. You do not know how that food has been manufactured. The packaging may be wanting, because in a quick way of making a buck, the manufacturer may not be able to package that food well, as a result of which possibly it's going to be degraded by the vagaries of nature, and therefore its composition changing. Distribution. How do we distribute the food that is eaten that is consumed by Kenyans? In most cases, we have vans that bring in all manner of food from up country, which vans do not qualify. They cannot pass the test of food safety in any way. Then we go to feeds, and this is what we feed our animals on. You go, you buy whatever nature of food you find in the market, you give it to your animals, and as a result of which, the beef, the mutton, whatever you get, the products you get from it are contaminated. This is because those feeds are actually not certified. They are not particularly produced in hygienic conditions, and therefore the food consumed by Kenyans becomes unfit. We also know very well that Kenyans are ingenious when it comes to adulteration of foods. In fact, we are always cautioned that whatever you buy, you must be cautious, whether it has the label of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, whether it has the other high quality assurance marks. You must be extremely cautious, because Kenyans are very good in adulteration. Kenyans are very good in counterfeits and other ways of ensuring that they produce lookalike foods, which cost much less than the real food, because they have to dupe Kenyans to buy that in haste and also in an attempt to make more money. I would give an example of some product in my local market. It's known as guzo. Guzo is said to be a form of fermented flour, which is supposed to, which comes from sorghum, which is widely grown in Tharaka. Sorghum, Gadam sorghum especially, is known for beer production. But guzo, which they actually use to make some local brew, which thank God now it's illegal, it may not be sold anywhere. The truth is, we are told that is not for human consumption. It is meant for animal. It's a form of animal feed. But we are able to adulterate it by adding a little bit of this baking powder and other additives, which make it ferment faster, and it is therefore transformed into some beer brewing process, which Kenyans find themselves in. Again, this is how ingenious we are, and therefore, when we say we are going to establish a control coordination office, this is welcome. Like the Kenya Bureau of Standards, like the liquor control boards and everything else. We want our food also to be controlled so that when you go to consumption, you consume a food that has a label showing it is fit for human consumption. This is a very welcome bill, and I do support, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable Faith Gitau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance, and I really want to support this bill. The issue of cancer in this country is really worrying. We are getting cancer, not just elderly people or just any other people, but even the children are getting cancers. So it is really worrying, and this bill has come at the right time. The establishment of this Office of the Food and Safety Controller will enable the country or the government to better track the cases of unverified foods and feeds. And therefore, what is coming out of late is that there are people who are sleeping on their jobs. And now that we have this office coming up, everybody will be alert. And I'm asking that we do a research, and especially for fertilizers that we are using to grow our crops. There is an issue of fertilizers. What are we giving Kenyans? We need to know what kind of materials are using to make this fertilizer. Why are we having cancers? Why are we having stomach problems? It's like everybody in Kenya has stomach issues. So I really want to support this bill. And because this bill will give us a framework of how the country and the government itself, how the food will be monitored, the food that we are eating. Is it the crisps that we are making, the coffee we are drinking, the tea, the carrots? Everything that we are eating needs to be monitored, and not just yearly, but weekly or even monthly. And so, Honorable Speaker, I really want to thank the people who came up with this bill, because it has come at the right time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Deputy Speaker. Okay. The Honorable Owen Bayer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill. Honorable Speaker, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill is coming at the right time. At the right time. In this country today, what we consume as food and what animals consume as feed, which later on translate to be food to the human beings, is that field, that space is in trouble. One, we have a problem of preservatives. Today, you find meat in supermarkets. And when you find that meat in the supermarket, it looks very fresh all the time. Probably it has stayed there for 4 to 5 days. But you ask, how has this meat been preserved to this level of freshness? And they will tell you they have used certain types of preservatives. Those preservatives translate to poison to human beings and eventually cause diseases. So when we have an office that controls food and feed, then we are bringing to this country the safety of human beings. So, Mr. Speaker, food safety and food safety means a safe country. The safety of this country is not about the armies, it's not about the police, it's not about all those other things. The safety of this country can also be determined by the kind of food and feed that is supplied. So, Honorable Speaker, it's very important that we have this office, this officer that will come into office. But my caution, Honorable Speaker, we have had KEBS in this country, Kenya Bureau of Standards, that has been regulating standards of goods in this country, including food, including water. But how come we always have issues of food that has not been properly standardized in the country? The question of integrity, Honorable Speaker. The question of integrity. When we set up this office, we can set an office, a good office with good objectives and with very nice proposals on it. But if the persons occupying that office are people without integrity, then we are doing zero work. So as we put people into office to oversee food safety and feed safety in this country, Honorable Speaker, integrity should be the overriding principle in ensuring that we are safe with the food that we have in this country. Honorable Speaker, another important factor that must be considered as a tourism destination, this country requires, within the shortest time, the establishment of this office. A lot of tourists and high-end tourists look at what is the food safety in Kenya before they come here. You know, once I went to a hotel in this country, in Malindi, and I realized that the billionaire who had come to that hotel had come with a whole plane load of food because he does not trust the food in this country. So I asked him, how come that all the food that is being prepared in this hotel is imported food? They said, even the tomatoes, even the onions, even everything had been imported. And this billionaire had come with a jet, landed the jet in Malindi Airport, and all food and everything, he had come with everything that needed to be cooked. And he told me, you know, I do not trust the food in this country. And we asked why. You said, you see, there's a lot of integrity issues in this country, so the food that is sneaked or that comes, that we buy from the market may not be very safe. I will name the billionaire later to my friend KKJ, who seems surprised. Because they are worried about food in this country. And the tourism sector in this country is actually losing high-end tourists because they are not very sure about the food safety and food in this country. For example, they will not buy milk from this country. Why? Because they think that animals in this country are fed with feed that is not of good quality, that has been compromised, and therefore they will import milk. They will not buy cooking fat from this country. And if you are a hotelier who deals with international tourists, you will import even cooking fat. You will import milk because the clientele demand that we have safe food, and therefore they will. So for us to boost the tourism sector in this country, we have to have food and feed control that can help this country in terms of tourism. Honorable Speaker, I would like to talk about Kenya being dumping sites of food and feed that is of low quality. You see, the processes of importing food and feed in this country has compromised. You know, my children like certain food, noodles, you know, and you go to the market and buy a packet of noodles. And you look at these noodles and the way they are and the process that you know noodles, you say, is this really safe for my children when they eat these noodles? And you look at it and say, suddenly I wouldn't allow my children to eat this noodle. How does it affect children in future? We have young children now suffering from cancer. You go to the cancer ward here in KNH and you realize there are very many young children that have cancer. And then we are also told that food can be a cause for cancer. Then you ask yourself the question, how did these children get cancer? It's because of the food that we have. How then do we control it? I think this office, Honorable Speaker, will help us to ensure that the feed that our children eat, especially fast food, the fast food that is prepared in these fast food restaurants, sometimes does not meet the threshold of fit for human consumption. Honorable Speaker, as I wind my presentation, I would like to say this. although a lot of the diseases that we have, the cancers that we have, can easily be traced to food. But not just food. Feed. Feed, Honorable Speaker. I remember the Honorable Gladys Boschele brought a motion on pesticides and I don't know whether she talked about fertilizers, but the pesticides that are used in our farms, where we grow our food, what goes into produce that plant, what goes into produce that tomato, what goes on to produce that potato, what goes on to produce that maize, might not be fit for human consumption, and therefore we end up with food that has elements within it that can cause diseases. Honorable Speaker, it is time that we establish this office, and this office, as the leader of majority has said, is supposed to provide coordination of the public institutions for the control of food and feed safety. And that is very important because it needs to coordinate KEBS, it needs to coordinate this standards organization, it needs to coordinate public health, it needs to coordinate a lot. It is very important. Public health officers today, depending on how much money they are given, can satisfy an animal that died of anthrax to find its way into the butcher. Public health officials today, I have seen pictures on social media where donkey meat is finding its way into Kiambu. I saw that story today. And I asked myself, what happened? What happened that donkey meat can find its way into a butchery? Because there's a public health officer who will turn, by virtue of his signature and his stamp, will turn donkey meat into beef. Just that. Why? Because there's no proper coordination. This office, when established, Honorable Speaker, will provide for the coordination of the public institutions for the control of food and feed safety. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the office will provide for the role of county governments in food and feed safety. Now, Honorable Speaker, I believe in devolution. But sometimes what goes on in county government, you see, they hire a public health officer, not based on qualifications, high standards of qualification, but they will hire that public health officer based on who knows who. On that basis, that public officer can kill a whole community. We had very recently schools, 2 schools where children died because of food poisoning. I can bet a public health officer must have certified that food in that school as fit for human consumption. And yet we lost lives. We lost lives, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, what I would like to say that this bill is very important. I urge members of Parliament to have a bipartisan approach. We pass this bill to ensure that our children, our people, Kenyans, are not harmed, not because of hunger, but because of the food that they eat. That people die, not because of disease, but because of the food that they have eaten. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill, and hope that when it comes to third reading, we will panel beat it and ensure that we give a gift.
Very well. The Honorable Caleb Luyai Saboti is in the House. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was trying to acquaint myself with the bill, and that's why I was running across to pick a copy. Mr. Speaker, I want to appreciate, I think this bill originates from the executive, having been brought by the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah. Mr. Speaker, this bill just ran short of collapsing all these authorities that were established to look at the safety of food and feed. That is the ministry department that dealing with veterinary services, crop development, livestock, the public health, medical services, the ministry in charge of fisheries, agriculture and food authority. Mr. Speaker, even if you just speak on the agriculture and food authority, remember we used to have various boards including the pyrethrum board, the sugar board, the crop, and other cashew nuts and the nuts board, and they were collapsed into one entity called Agriculture and Food Authority. And of course, we've seen the impact of what AFA has done by collapsing all this independent board that seems to have been given the same mandate, carrying out the same thing. And the collapse of it, of course, as the advantages of reducing even the cost of running, the monies that we put into these boards, and making them more effective. The Kenya Dairy Board, the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, Mr. Speaker, KEFIS is domiciled or mostly dominant in my constituency. One of their plants and the vast land is around my constituency. I've seen their work in the field of testing the health of the imported seeds before they are now relayed to the farmers. And of course, it was also a collapse of other small entities that were dealing with the same thing. And remember, we used to even have Kari and the KEFIS were more or less doing the same thing. And now some of the functions were transferred to now what we call KALRO, that is now been more effective. Pest Control Products Board, Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuff Board, National Biosafety. I agree with the intent of this bill because this is more or less collapsing all this into one. In fact, it could have even been more effective to have it into one entity with various departments relating to different areas of operation in terms of whether it is food or animal feeds or seeds, whatever the case. But the most important is to ensure that whatever comes into this country meets the standards of safety as pertains to human consumption. Mr. Speaker, I support the bill with the regard of trying to put most of these agencies on the board. And the Speaker, it is also paramount to note that most of the time when we pass bills in this parliament, we don't take so much cognizance of the operationalization of some of these authorities that we intend to form. We recently had to repeal a bill on social assistance of the vulnerables in our society. Just 2 years down the line, after that bill had been passed by this parliament, we had to repeal because it was impossible to operationalize that board. The authority that was envisaged to be formed could not get the much needed funding by the government. So the continuous enactment of several bills that eventually lands into a dustbin or in some shelves that are not being able to be implemented by ministries has always been our undoing as a parliament. So this is also a wake-up call to this parliament that we should not be passing laws so quickly, whether emotionally or out of national popularity. We need to look at them even eventually how we are going to make them into use. We need to make sure that as we pass them, we envisage a future that we have an organization that is well catered for in terms of exchequer funding and an organization that is going to stand the test of time. So, Speaker, this is the onus on this parliament to make sure that the bills that we pass here meets the quality standard of establishment that we need to have in this country, with proper mechanism, with proper staffing, proper funding, so that we don't just pass bills for the sake of it to excite the crowd, to excite the people of Kenya, and eventually later on we are back here again trying to repeal the same act that we passed, so that we either collapse some of the organizations due to lack of funding, operationalization for whatever reason. And the more so, Mr. Speaker, I have to say this. Some of these moribund organizations, they look like they exist, but they don't actually exist. They exist on paper. But in real sense, some of them are used as conduit of corruption. This is where donor funds are directed or misdirected for consumption by a few people. So we also need to know the operationalization of some of these entities that were formed either by an act of parliament, by a legal notice, by executive orders. What was the need? What was the prevailing circumstances upon which these things were formed? Because they later on become moribund, they are used wrongly by unscrupulous officials we put in, and we misdirect our funds there. Most of allocation in some of these ministries, you'll find that they are allocated in a very more or less a makeshift organization. But because they have found a loophole in an act of parliament that we passed, establishing these authorities and the boards, then they have a legal standing to direct money there. And this is how the loss of money from various ministries have gone to waste. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to support, but with a caution that as we pass laws and we pass acts here to establish whether it is a coordination body, whether it is an authority, we must also know how are we going to fund it. What is the nature of staffing? There are some organizations that you walk in from the CEO to the sweeper is from one tribe, because either it is regionalized, because of either is a region, an activity based on that region, and people think like if it is something to do with maize, then this has to be Rift Valley. If something to do with sugar, this has to be maybe Western, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it becomes a tribal entity. And you'll find that from the CEO downwards, all the people who are working there are from one tribe. So we also need to know, eventually, are these entities going to meet even the national cohesion parameters of making sure that all Kenyans also get a chance to be part and parcel and contribute to the well-being of the society. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to support.
The Honorable Didmus Barasa, but before then, let me, Honorable members, acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's gallery, or even if they have left, the following schools that have been here and were able to visit us. Number one was Eronge Adventist School from Bojari constituency, Kisii. We had Tasia School, Embakasi West constituency, Nairobi City County. And we have had Garissa Academy, Garissa Township constituency, Garissa County. Thank you. Didmus Barasa, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this very
Sorry,
important
Honorable Baraza, there was also this one which was in the Speaker's gallery. Mount Kenya Baptist School, Nanyuki, Laikipia East constituency, Laikipia County. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this very important bill and say from the very onset, I support this bill. This is a very important bill, Honorable Speaker, because one is going to create jobs that thousands of Kenyan children are going to be employed as food safety and feed inspectors across the country. And the second thing, Honorable Speaker, is that the country will also have an opportunity to tap into the skills of the very many Kenyans who have trained in terms of evaluating and inspecting food and feed to ascertain their safety, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and most importantly, in this era and time, there is no country, Kenya included, that can lose the population by consuming unhealthy food, by the cattle consuming feed that have not been certified, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, this bill will go a long way to ensure that the healthy status of very many Kenyans is not curtailed or affected by failure to ensure that the food that is available in our market is actually safe for human consumption. Mr. Speaker, I have a belief that by approving this bill, what we have been hearing about Kenyans consuming donkey meat, dog meat, food that has not been is not good for human consumption, and I have a belief that once this bill comes into the force, that those stories will no longer exist in this country. I am even tempted to think, Honorable Speaker, that the food I've been eating may not be good, because I've always wanted to add some weight. So I hope that when this bill passes, we'll be able to know that this food is good for these purposes, is good for that purposes, that if we want to get energy, you will be able, because they're not just approving that this food is good for consumption, but they'll also add some kind of a footnote that this food is rich in ABCD. Because as much as we are aware, we learned in school, in home science about balanced diet, I know we have some food which when you go to a hotel and you order that I want to have food that is rich in vitamins. I am sure that some unscrupulous hotels will be able to sell food that is not rich in that nutrient that Kenyans will want to get. That if we want to get food that is rich in carbohydrates, I am 100% sure that the majority of the food that we eat do not have the requisite starch and carbohydrates the way they are written in. So I have a belief that these food and feed safety inspectors will go a long way, not just to ascertain that this food is good for human consumption, but actually it must contain the prescribed nutrients so that Kenyans get value for the money that they spend buying this food, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill. Like the Leader of Majority has aptly put it and explained in detail, is that we may be having the majority of Kenyans who are battling various mysterious diseases. Those diseases, 90% of those diseases may have come as a result of feeding on food that has not been certified to be secure for human health, Honorable Speaker. I am also a believer that we may have lost thousands of Kenyan people on some mysterious diseases by failure to ensure that the food that's available in our market is actually fit for human consumption. Mr. Speaker, we have also been told that the majority of the fruits that are available in our Kenyan market, they are never allowed to ripe through the natural processes, Honorable Speaker, that there are some additives that you spread on those fruits and they should be able to ripen very, very fast. So I hope that by the House approving this bill and the creation of this body will ensure that this type of things can actually be a thing of the past, and that each and every food that will be available on the Kenyan market must be food that has been properly been inspected, properly been certified to be fit for human consumption. And I think the only thing that I did not see in this proposed bill, which I know, Honorable Speaker, that the House will have an opportunity through third reading to enrich it, is that we must have also some kind of penalties, some powers that this authority should have, so that in the event that they found an individual who is circulating or distributing food that has not been certified to be fit for human consumptions, an action must be taken, Honorable Speaker. We cannot be legislating in vain. We cannot be approving bills in vain, Honorable Speaker, that to act as a deterrent and actually prevent unscrupulous business people from distributing food that doesn't meet the threshold for human consumption. They should actually be dealt with. The law must take its course, and we will be proposing further amendments to this bill so that this authority must have some powers and also try to mention, or rather try to put in some penalties on those who will be found selling food that is not fit for human consumption, or rather food that have been outlawed. Honorable Speaker, to say the least, We are also aware of very many institutions that will even sell food that has expired, or rather even falsifying expiry dates of particular foodstuffs, Honorable Speaker. And this must also be within the mandate of this body that will be created once Parliament approves this bill, which I'm 100% sure we will, that those people also, they should be dealt with, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is not only ungodly, it's not just bad manners, it's not just against the law, but it's absolutely inhuman for an individual or a distributor to distribute food that is expired, to distribute food that has not been properly packaged, Honorable Speaker. We are told that we have a certain plastic materials that are not good for packaging food, and that if you package food in those materials, chances of those materials transmitting cancer are very high, Honorable Speaker. So this body will go a long way in ensuring that how we package our food, how we cook our food, is done in a manner that doesn't put the health status of both the human beings and animals to exposing them to very many diseases that are very rampant in this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am fully aware that some of the deaths that are registered in this country are as a result of food that is not good for human consumption. Like my friend just mentioned that it is indeed a fact that every year we lose students for eating contaminated food. Every year the government of Kenya spends colossal sums of money carrying out investigations and testing on the cause of death for certain students because of the way the food is stored. And I will also be proposing further amendments to ensure that the mandate of this authority goes beyond testing food to ensure that the food is stored in a proper manner. Because if you test food today and you give a report that this food is good for human consumption, you are given a certificate. But when you don't store this food in a proper manner, then chances are that the same food will kind of deteriorate, will change the status that they are in because they are not being properly stored. And the same food that has a certificate of being good for human consumption, if again it is tested in another 2 or 3 weeks, it might turn out to be food not fit for human consumption, Honorable Speaker. So these are the very many things that we are going to improve, and I want to thank the Leader of Majority for bringing to the House this very good idea, and we will be able to assist him as a House by improving this idea into a better idea that will assist millions of Kenyan people. So, Honorable Speaker, I support.
The Honorable James Nyikao.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill. Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important bill in terms of health. I support it because the object of this bill is to coordinate all public institutions that are involved in control of food safety and feed safety. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we actually control food and feed safety, because food is the most important social determinant of health. We are what we eat in terms of health. Mr. Speaker, food can result in direct illness from infectious diseases, communicable diseases such as typhoid, bacillary dysentery, cholera, and all sorts of the illnesses that we can have. Mr. Speaker, we can also have non-communicable diseases, which is arising from the food we eat, starting from problems of lack of vitamins, which are common things, particularly in children, to serious diseases such as diabetes, hypertension arising from obesity, strokes which are arising from having a lot of cholesterol in our system. So these are all important. Or we can have chronic illnesses, chronic poisoning in food. you can have like fishes that is actually contaminated. There have been parts of the world where you have been serious contamination of fish leading to heavy metal poisoning like mercury. And those can occur even here, seeing how our environment is being managed. So the people who then get the fish needs to do something about it. You can have acute poisoning, Mr. Speaker, from the food that you eat. We often talk about food poisoning and we think that somebody put poisoning in food. In fact, if food have some forms of bacteria, it will cause acute illnesses that actually is called food poisoning. Some, if you take milk, you can actually collapse immediately because the milk is contaminated. Some, depending on how the milk is actually prepared, people put some things, even as things as bad as melamine to make the milk look more thick and more rich. And so this, we need to look at all those things. Mr. Speaker, you can have long-term effects depending on the type of food you eat. There are foods that are actually associated with cancers. You can have that. Things like cancer of the esophagus have been associated. Cancer of the liver have been associated with the kind of foods and the contamination in foods. And what about the feeds? Mr. Speaker, feeds that are given to animals are an important part of the food chain. It gets into the animals and we eat the animals, the animal products. Again, that is extremely important. As I said, if you have things like aflatoxin and they're in the food, you will actually get cancer of the liver. So it is important that we get this. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when food is being produced, it can be contaminated. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the possible ways the food can be contaminated at the time of production, when we use fertilizers, what is the effect of that? When we use pest controls, chemicals, what is the impact they have on the food that we eat? What we put in the feeds. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we have known that some feeds are actually, let me say, energized with steroids so that the chicken can grow faster. They pass this on to us. Mr. Speaker, during processing of foods, the storage of food, all these are actually associated with chemicals or other things that will actually make food dangerous to our health. The transportation of food, Mr. Speaker, that is also extremely important. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill because if you look at all those areas, from the production of food in the farms to the fork in our mouths, the chances of contamination are numerous. And, Mr. Speaker, we then have very many institutions which are in various ministries which are actually involved in this. And this bill actually seeks to coordinate all those institutions. I think that is extremely important because as it is now, each one, KEBS is doing their own thing, KELFIS is doing their own thing, and nobody brings them together, and even the duplication that occurs with that. So this bill seeks to bring that coordination, and it actually establishes the structure. Office of the Food Safety Controller, extremely important, Mr. Speaker. It also puts in place processes for traceability. If there is food contamination from a factory, can we trace where this food actually come from? Can we trace where the food has been distributed to? Can we go to the supermarkets that have, so that you can have a recall system? If there's an outbreak, where was the food produced? Where has it been distributed to? Can we recall that food? Can we follow up the process to that factory and find out what happened wrong? Or to that farm and find out what went wrong? And Mr. Speaker, this is done through very many competent authorities. 10 of them, they actually are listed in the first schedule of this, from the ministries responsible for public health, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry responsible for fisheries, the AFA Authority, Kenya Dairy Board, Kenya Plant and Health Inspectorate, Pest Control Board, fertilizer, all these, Mr. Speaker, actually are working independently. And during the discussion that we had with them, they are working in silos. But we live in a comprehensive manner so that the food in your house, it doesn't matter which authority is responsible for controlling which type of food. You just know that you want to know that your food is safe. So it is good to have somebody that is controlling them. So, Speaker, I support this bill again because it has put into the schedule what also needs to be, what laws need to be amended. Because if you look at this, they're actually under 13 acts of parliament. So it would be futile if we were to do this without going in and actually looking at all those 13 acts of parliament and amending them. Public Health Acts, Food Drugs and Chemical Substances Act, Dairy Industries Act, Fertilizers and Animal Feed Safety Act, Pest Control Act, Meats Act, the Standards Act, Biosafety Act, Water Act. All these things, Mr. Speaker, they all need to be coordinated. And this bill actually seeks to do that and has put in places structures that can help us do that. I only hope that when we get the office of this controller, it has even put how this person is appointed, the qualification of this appointment, the structure of this office. And I hope that when that takes place, this office will do what it's supposed to do. But the most important thing that we must look at, there should never be competition between this office at the various competent authorities that is going. We don't expect this office to go out and start picking food from industries and checking them. That is not their duty. Their duty is to find out, is KEBS doing what it's supposed to do? Is KELFIS doing what it's supposed to do? If not, where is the problem and what do we do? Because if it does that, it will actually cause us a lot of chaos and unnecessary competition within the system. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Nyomi Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important bill that Majority Leader has brought. And from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I support this because it concerns the life of our people and it deals with food that in a day, in every home, those who can afford can have at least 3 meals. And that then means that it goes into our system and has a lot of effect on our bodies. I support this because when this will be put, food safety will be put in place, then we will be sure of having a good and healthy society. Mr. Speaker, in the past, many of our people or many people have suffered because they have been affected in a way by eating contaminated food or food that has been poisoned, and they have been, others have even lost their lives. I remember one time people attended a certain wedding and almost 45 people were hospitalized. And if good measures were in place, then things would have been different. And that is why Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill today is something that our country needs like yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I support this because when we put this in place, we ensure that food will not cause any harm to the consumer. And normally, a lot of food is produced in the farms, but a lot of food, again, is bought by the consumers from the shops, from the market, and all these places. And when we are sure of the product, then we are sure that our people will always be safe. Mr. Speaker, this bill will provide for the coordination of the public institution for the control of food and feed safety, and will also establish the office of the Food Safety Controller, which today is not there. By establishing that office, we will be able at least to serve our nation in a better way. I would want to suggest that as the offices are established, let us make sure that we devolve this, that in every county we establish the office of the Food Safety Controller, so that in every county we make sure that we have taken good control of that. Again, Mr. Speaker, this bill will provide for the role of the county governments in food and feed safety. Mr. Speaker, today, when you look at what is happening in the counties, there is a lot of negligence in many areas. And today, if this bill will be put in place, then the county government will also be responsible in a way, so that we don't only blame or look at the national government, but we also have a responsibility that the county government is responsible for. Mr. Speaker, we have people who feed on animals. We have people who have, the animals, the domestic animals like cows and goats as their as the only income or as the only thing they have, and that is the farming they do. And if we take care of even the animal feeds and everything, then we will have healthy animals, such that, because sometimes when you want to go and when you have bought an animal and you slaughter that animal, then after the health check is done, sometimes they realize that that animal is not safe to be consumed. And that then means that the buyer has gone into loss. But if we have good measures in place, then we will be able to take care of the businessmen, we will take care of the consumers, we will take care of the entire country, and we will be a healthy country. Mr. Speaker, in clause 3 of this bill, it outlines its objective, and the objective number 1 is effectively coordinate the performance of the functions of the competent authorities. In some of our institutions today, we do not have competent people, and the Bible also says, my people perish due to lack of knowledge. And when we have well-skilled people, people with enough knowledge, people who are competent in any place, then we are sure that whatever approvals they do is something that is acceptable. Mr. Speaker, I would want to say that as we approve this bill, let us practice it in the best possible way. Let us put it in place without any corruption, without any compromise, so that even the officers or the people who are there will be competent enough, because we will be dealing with issues that concerns people's life, matters that are very important to our people and the consumers. And once we do that, then and follow all the due diligence, then we are sure of the product. Again, Mr. Speaker, under that clause 3, it enhances accountability in the implementation of official control. Mr. Speaker, in our nation, accountability and good stewardship is what has been lacking. And it is my prayer that under Kenya Kwanza government, a lot of accountability will be put in place. And if we will all be good stewards, then this country can be transformed. But a lot has happened in the past due to lack of accountability. Funds have been lost, resources have been wasted, just because we cannot be able to have good accountability in place. And that is why, as we talk or as we debate on this, I would suggest that for sure, if all these objectives will be followed and put in place, then this country can be transformed and be sure of having that healthy society that I said at the beginning. Mr. Speaker, as we pass this bill, we will be sure of protection of human life and health. Today, Kenya is suffering because many of our people are suffering because of cancer. Many people tell us that cancer is caused by some food that we take as our meals. Some say that it is because of the chemicals in our food. Once this will be put in place, I believe that we will be able to take and protect the lives of our people. Again, protection of consumer interest. Sometimes,
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570# wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570#. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.